What's up, girlfriend? So you guys have probably just listened to or about to listen to. We actually did a panel discussion to talk about The Woman King, starring Viola Davis. It was such a wonderful movie, you guys. I actually seen it twice, and I wanted to do something around it just to bring, a group of women together who actually seen the movie, just for us to talk about it and share with you guys how the movie made us feel. What did we think? All of this wonderful stuff about the movie, and also talk a little bit about the critics and kind of address the critics, people who are kind of saying to boycott the movie and different things like that. But I think everybody on the call had seen the movie. Some of us had seen it twice, myself included. But it was such a wonderful movie that I wanted to create a space for just as women for us to come together and really talk about it. And so I had a wonderful group of women join me on the panel. I mostly facilitated the conversation and didn't really jump in too much because I really wanted to hear their thoughts about it. And I wanted you guys to hear their thoughts about it. So I hope that you enjoyed this week's Girlfriend Therapy podcast of Your Conversations. This is a panel discussion where we talk about the amazing movie, The Woman King, which was written by, let me see if I can remember all of the credits. The Woman King, which was written by Maria Bello and Dana Stevens. It was directed by Gina Price Blythewood and is starring Viola Davis as Naniska, Susu Mdude as Nawi, Sheila Atum as Aminza, and Lashana Lynch as Izogi, and also John Boyoga as King Gizo. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But it was such a wonderful movie. I wanted to do just a conversation around it, and we just kind of did it in a panel format. So prayerfully, you guys enjoy it. Hopefully, you've not seen the movie. Please go out and see the movie. Support it. It really is so much deeper than I think what the critics want you to believe. I think it's an important story to tell, and even in taking liberty, to make it a beautiful story. I think the writers and the directors and the actors, and they did an amazing job bringing it to life. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, this Girlfriend Therapy panel discussion around The Woman King. Blessings, guys. What's up, girlfriends? Welcome to Girlfriend Therapy Podcast. You guys know we are doing our year of conversations, and today we have a very special conversation. I'm super excited to be joined by a panel of ladies. You guys can see all their beautiful faces. They're joining me today as we talk about the movie, The Woman King. So I have Miss Kimberly K. LeBoo from LeBoo Publishing joining us today. Hey, Kimberly.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yes, we have Miss Regina Robinson from Unstoppable Women. Hey, Regina. I don't know if she was on mute or you just waved.
I was just waving like
okay. Then we also have Miss Stephanie M. Kirkland of Identity Shaper. Did I say that right?
It's with Identity Dynamics. My nickname is the Identity Shaper.
There we go, with Identity Dynamics. There we go. And then also we have Carolyn Jones of CSPJ Consulting. Now, was that Evangelist Carolyn Jones?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Perfect. So you guys know, I asked you all to join me. First of all, thank you all so much for agreeing to join me to talk about this movie. You guys know I would have talked about it by myself because, but I thought it'll be a lot more fun just to bring some other women warriors on the podcast with me today, just to talk about this phenomenal movie. And the movie, again, as I mentioned, is The Woman King, which was written by Miss Maria Bello and Dana Stevens. It was directed by Gina Price Blythewood. It's starring the wonderful Miss Viola Davis as Naniska. And then it's Tatsu Mbude, I think I'm saying her name right, as Nawi. We have Sheila Adam as Aminza. We have Lashana Lynch as Izogi, and John Boyega as King Gezu. I think I said that right.
Good job.
I can't help you.
Good. You're good, because I can't say any of those names. So you did good.
So we have all seen the movie. Some of us have seen it more than once, myself included. So I just want to jump in because I know, this is just a great conversation So I want to jump in immediately. And Kimberly, I want to throw the first question over to you.
Okay.
So, but I want everybody to answer. But Kimberly, I want you to answer first, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So the first question is, so what was it like for you personally seeing this film, and how did it make you feel?
It's funny because I of course I thought the movie was fantastic, great, inspiring, like everybody else on here. And at first I didn't think that I was even going to go see the movie, because I felt, okay, this is another thing like Black Panther, and seen them all thing. But I, as I started seeing interviews and everything, I said, well, maybe I'll check it out. It's not really the type of movie I would go see, because I'm really squeamish when it comes to blood and gore and all that kind of stuff. And I knew I had seen some stuff already, and so I wasn't going to go see it. But then I just felt like there was something that made me feel like I needed to see it. One, because of the conversations that were starting to surface. Although I don't really express my point of view on a lot of things openly, especially things that are very controversial, because it just gets on my nerves. And but I wanted to at least have seen the movie and be able to, be a part of the conversation if need be. And then this opportunity came up. So I love the movie. It just invokes so many different feelings. Of the strength in women, and and I'll talk more about that later, another question, but just powerful. It's just like I clapped at the end of the movie. I'm sure you guys did too. So it just made you feel like this sense of pride, this strength, this we are the stuff.
Bad to the bones.
I try to clean that up. So yeah, so it was great.
Amen. I love that. Stephanie, what about you? What did it make you feel?
Well, I thought it was, on my post, I said magnanimous. I thought it was absolutely epic, because it really stirred something that I already felt, beliefs that I've always had about us as women, especially us as Christian women, and how God calls us Ezer, Ezer Connecto in the Word of God. And Ezer means warrior. So I had an agenda when I went. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because to me, it just stirred what I already believed myself to be. So to me, it was just this way of engaging and seeing who I was in action, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for me, it was just confirmation. I want to see me. Yes, that's what I look like. Yes, that's what I look like in the spirit. Yes, that's what I do. Yes, that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So for me, it was intentional.
Yeah.
Because I had an understanding of who I was in the eyes of God, and that I am Ezer. And so to see that manifested was huge for me.
Amen. I love that so much. And fun fact, Stephanie literally rented out the theater and brought a whole slew of women there.
Yeah, we almost had 100 women.
So that was awesome. So if there's any, like, she really liked the movie, was really excited about it. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Carolyn, what about you? And I'm just going into the way that my screen is showing, but Carolyn, what about you? What's your thoughts?
So my thoughts, and as far as how it made me feel, as feel being an emotion, was relentless. Like, don't back down from anything. I needed it from a spiritual aspect, because I'm coming back out. Life happens, tragedy after tragedy, and I've decided to go full speed ahead. And so it spoke to me to, don't fear the pain, just go full speed ahead. And the sisterhood of, I know we're talking about our favorite scenes later, but the whole movie was my favorite scene. So, when she went back and got their sister out of them thorns, it's like, that's right. We should not be victorious alone. We should.
Amen.
And so it spoke to me. So I went to see it twice. The first time I was just excited, and with my girl cousins, and we had the whole movie row. And so I went back today to see it with purpose, and OMG. Like, I'm getting ready. Y'all about to read some stuff about me. Watch. I can show you better than I can tell you. if I needed to be sparked, you know, that was it.
That's it. Definitely empowering. What about you, Regina?
Wow, if I can just describe it all in the emotion in one word, is disruptor.
Whoa, that's it.
And for me, she was the
I love
disruptor.
that.
First of all, when they had the preview, seeing this bold Black woman, bodacious, willing to step outside her comfort zone, created her own lane, dominated in that lane, and knew it wasn't going to be easy, but she knew she was called in purpose, and she was willing and determined to stand in her purpose. And she did just that, but she didn't do it alone. She kept on reaching back for each and every one of the women that were aligned, standing side by side with her, because Maya Angelou says it's best. I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And Viola showed us standing as 10,000 in that movie. And she was truly a disruptor, but she taught those other women how to be bold and disruptive, just like her, and not to be a mimic of her, but to be in their own right, to show them how to own their own power. And that was huge for me.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I know when I went to see it, like you, Kimberly, at first I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to see that. But then, you know, my daughter and I, Friday, you know, she just started her job today. So it was like, well, let's go to the movies, do something. So we went on Friday. And when I tell you, I cried. I mean, I was so incredibly full. Even talking with you ladies, I have like goosebumps all up and down my arms. But it was such an inspiration. And it spoke to not just where I am in my life, but even for my daughter as a young adult, like just to be, you know, empowered in that way, and to see women, you know, strong and unapologetic and all those wonderful things. So I left that theater just like this was the best movie I've ever seen in my life. Like this is the best movie I've ever seen in my life. And then I went again on Sunday with my husband, and he was like, this was a really good movie. So even as, you know, as women and men, you know, I can attest, you know, from my husband's perspective, that men, I think, will enjoy this just as much as women. So yeah, really great movie. And Regina, I want to ask you the next question. So what was like your favorite scene or even line in a movie?
Heck, I had so many, but okay, I'm gonna be focused. But I have so many. But when the king said towards the end, your power is in you. And when you realize and discover that, that's when you will be limitless. And I think that as women, and I'm just going to focus on the women as a whole, but as women, we diminish our power often because our power is stripped because we give it away, right? But when we hold on to our power, we stand in our power, we stand in our own uniqueness, understanding that God gave us our power, right? He gave, you know, he gave Stephanie, he gave Kimberly different power than he gave Regina, right? And so I have to stand in my power. And when I understand that, I am limitless. And to me, that limitless meant that you are capable of doing the unexpected. You are capable of creating boundaries that don't even exist. And so when he said that, just the power in his voice and the resounding and the people just, you know, celebrated that. He didn't just say it for Viola, he was saying it for all of them. And I believe they all received it.
Exactly. No, I love that. And it was interesting, just to tag on to that, there was one part where when Naui, the young girl, was interested in a guy, and I can't think, Yoki's like, don't give away your power.
That's right.
And I wonder what, I mean, there's so many levels to that, but I wonder what she was thinking when she said that. So that was just kind of, when you said power, that was something that came to mind for me. But Carolyn, what about you? I see you got excited when Regina said that quote.
Yeah, because the king said, if you want to put a people in change, you must first convince them that they are meant to be bound.
Yes.
And I got chills because, and even to speak to her telling young Naui, don't give away your power, because Naui said something about the men can have wives and children, but the women cannot. Why is that? And when she told her, don't give away your power, I think she was coaching her to be, you know, be okay with the crush, but don't let him tell you what you can and cannot do.
That's right.
And so when he said that at the end, that like it pierced me in a good
Yeah.
way, that who has convinced me that I'm meant to be bound.
Ooh, that's a word that will
Right.
preach.
Right? Wow.
Like, what? Right.
Wow.
You know, like the
Wow.
word says, you know, who vexed you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, who,
Or the other way, like, whose report will you believe?
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Wow.
Or in
Yeah.
fact, in the turn of that is, have you bound yourself? Come on,
Ah,
somebody,
now
right?
that's
Because you know
Really?
what I mean? Have we bound ourselves at certain points in life, right? Where we
exactly.
should have been free. And the
Uh,
only
Yeah.
thing that was keeping us bound was ourselves. And
ourselves.
ourselves is our thoughts.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
We tell
Exactly.
ourselves.
Exactly. No, that was a good quote too. I feel like I've heard that.
It was. So it was the quote from, I think it was Harriet Tubman or someone who said
Yes.
about the free when she was
Yes.
in the Underground Railroad. It was a quote
Exactly.
from there, but he only said part of it.
Right.
So that it related to this version of the movie.
Exactly.
It still had the same impact when he said it. My God, it did.
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
it's a message, like it's a message, one, that's worth repeating every opportunity that you get. But then I think it's also one that you want to, kind of think on as well.
Yeah.
Kimberly,
Introspect.
exactly. Kimberly, what was your favorite scene, favorite quote, or
I'm like everybody else is like,
oh,
ooh, it was
Biddy,
so much, right? But I think for me, because like I'm all in the story of it. One of them was when Aniska said to Naui, I think it was, I know your arrogance. When they were kind of, talking back and forth, and she's like, I know your arrogance. It was that I see you in me, or I see me in
yes.
you, I am you, that type of thing.
Yes.
So I really like that scene when she said that, because it was like, we're connected. Like, I understand, where you are, and I understand how you feel, because I am you and you are me. Like I thought that was powerful. And then another scene that like caught me off guard, was the scene that it looked like to me they shot it in Ghana at the slave castles. When they were out bringing the slaves in, and because I've been there before, it impacted me in such a way, and I just didn't even expect to feel it like I did. And I had that same sadness that I felt 10 years ago when I was actually physically there in Ghana at the slave castle. So when that scene flashed and them down by the water and the castles behind them, I was like, wow. Yeah, so that, and then the other one was when she spoke her words back to her when they were captured, and
yes,
when she had broken her arm and she had pretty much given up. She felt like she had given up, and she gave her words right back to her and pretty much spoke life back into her.
Exactly. I
And
love
she gained
that.
that whole fight back. So that was exciting too.
Oh, that gave me goosebumps too.
Yeah.
Stephanie, what about you? I'm so excited, like I can watch the movie all over.
Like everyone else said, the whole movie was my favorite.
Yes.
But like I was trying to think of two highlights. The one that stood out to me as a highlight, because I did a post about it, was the one that Carolyn said about if you want to hold a people in chains, you must first convince them they are bound. And for me, because of my agenda going to the movie, it really spoke to women as far as us convincing ourselves we're bound, because we have allowed socializations and traditions to determine for us who we are in our space, and really not really doing the study and the introspection. And how many women, it just makes me think of how many women have not walked in their purpose because someone told them they couldn't, or because someone told them they didn't have a right to, or because of someone else's perspective of who they were in the earth. And just like Regina was saying, how many of us have bound ourselves? And we've bound ourselves to narratives, perspectives, ways of being that God never intended us to be bound by. And a lot of times we have allowed other people's perspective of God to bind us. And we've held fast to that, even though our spirit is telling us something totally different.
Right.
Telling us we're strong, telling us we're leaders, telling us to press into. And we've allowed the fear of judgment. We've allowed being alone. We've allowed all of these things to keep us. And we have literally convinced ourselves that we were bound. And so that really stirred in me that conversation. And then the other one that I thought was fascinating that stood out to me was when they were praying, even though we pray to God and they were praying to their gods, but what they were saying, that we are not doing this alone. God, you are with us. You have made us strong. You have made us mighty. So they didn't take the credit for their strength. I thought that was, they didn't take the credit for their might or their ability or their way to engage. They gave honor to God for that, you know? And so I thought about us as Christian women. We give honor to God for why we do what we do, our assignment in the earth, how we show up, and we don't take credit, you know, for that.
Exactly.
So those two things really, those stood out, but the whole movie stood out. But those things made me, you know, kind of just really contemplate, you know, how we should stand in our greatness and how we should stand in our warrior as women.
Stephanie, if I could just add a teeny bit to that,
please.
Also, we're convinced that we should be bound when others don't celebrate us.
Come on now.
You know, we're doing all these amazing things and nobody's saying good job. But we should not need that to validate us.
Celebrate ourselves. That's right.
You know, and especially if I mean, you know, Kwanza, we worked together at Booze, and I was always, you know, watching other people get the awards that they gave. And I was a pretty amazing chick, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was. I made it, you know, I made things happen. And I was like, nobody is celebrating me. But it's not in me to draw back. It's just not in me to draw back. So, you know,
I love that.
Adding to the reasons that we allow ourselves to be bound or allow ourselves to be convinced that we should be bound. You know, that is one of them.
No, I love that. Would you say I'm not built to draw back?
Yeah, I'm not.
Good.
I'm just not designed to draw back.
That's good. But I think that's amen. Regina, were you about to jump in?
Well, I had the one part, so I didn't know if everyone as a collective remember this part where Viola got very emotional, and she talked about how when she says it's the little girl in you who you have silenced. She said it was the little girl in her who she had silenced and hidden away, and denied pain, and then it's often who she was afraid of. She said she didn't know what she was afraid. She said, like, for me, I felt like right there, she freed so many women in one moment who have been holding on to everything about their past, the hurt, the pain, the disappointment, the rape, the just the abuse, everything that it was. She said, I had silenced it all and hidden it away and left that little girl. And now I have to go back and get her, right?
And free her.
And free her from being bound so that she can be the woman she is. And so she said, that's how I stand here as this woman before you today, right? So that he was like, yes, God, because we have to be willing to say our past is our past, but it is part of our message. It is our story that the world needs, right? And when you share it, there's another woman or man or whoever that's going to find the courage they need for their first step. And was the courage for her even expelling that and being able to display that, was the courage for all of those other young girls watching her. And the her daughter, who wound up being her daughter, says that I apologize for being that pain that you felt. She said, you were not the pain that I felt. You were not the one who extracted that pain. And so her being able to then come back and tell her daughter, it was never you. And in fact, show her love and embrace her. It was just so many. We all know it was so many things. But that part,
and also too, now, Regina, you forgot one more piece. When she cried. Because remember in the beginning, she told her not to cry. And after she got free, she was able to cry. She was able to show all of her. So I was like, okay, come on, Regina, you got to say the cry. You got to say
that. She was able to give all of herself, right? Sometimes we hold back because we're afraid of being vulnerable. We're afraid of how the world will perceive us or judge us. So the world says, don't cry. You a punk if you cry. No, you can get that ugly cry out. What? Viola got that ugly cry out.
She didn't give us the ugly cry. I was a little disappointed.
She tried to give it a
little tear.
But that was major. That was major for her.
That's right. But if you were a woman, you knew that was an ugly cry. Although it wasn't, you felt that was your ugly cry. Whenever you had your ugly cry.
That was freedom. Oh gosh, I was like, yes, give yourself yourself permission to be free.
Yes.
That's
You know what I'm
it.
saying? Give yourself permission.
Stephanie,
Yeah.
I want to go to because I think this leads us into, Regina, what you were talking about kind of takes us into that next question. But Stephanie, I want to let you answer it first.
Okay.
So what was a message or a thing from the movie that you think is important, that is an important takeaway for this generation?
To give yourself permission to be who you're called to be,
Mm.
and not give yourself permission to do it, because I believe that we have to walk in our own greatness. I mean, part of my work as an identity shaper with my company is how do we help women leverage their uniqueness
Right.
in all of the spaces that they find themselves in. So how do I grab hold to who I am, my assignment, who I've been called to be, and then leverage that in whatever space I find myself in, not forming myself to organizational norms, not doing what everybody says, because my authority and power is in who I am. Like Regina said, it is in my story. My life message is my gift to the world. I think sometimes we get so confused about what purpose is. And I believe purpose is the message your life is called to speak.
Amen.
And until we actually own who we are and walk in the fullness of that, then we have to own that permission and not care what anybody says. And it's not being braggadocious or arrogant or, you know, trying to take over. It's none of that. It is me owning, because I'm stirring up all of the greatness that God has ordained for my life. And so I have to give myself permission to stand in that. And they did. And she gave herself permission. She gave all those girls permission, you know what I'm saying, going behind that veil. And then they became all that they were supposed to be without the noise of the world. You know what I'm saying? But each one of them had to find their space. And I love that.
Hey man, I love that. Kimberly, I want to throw that over to you as well. For you, what was a message or thing from the movie that you think is an important takeaway for this generation?
I think one thing was knowing the importance of knowing who you are at your core.
Yeah.
You know, she did a lot of, you know, that whole soul searching thing and just knowing deep down, like she knew that little girl was down in there that needed to be free. Like she knew who she was at her core, you know, and I think that's very important. And also, you know, knowing what you will and won't stand for.
Amen.
That
I love that.
Yeah. And then the whole message of we are more powerful together as women, you know, than we are apart.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Carolyn, what about you?
All of the women warriors wore skirts. That spoke volumes to me. And all of the women warriors won not with strength against a man, but with wisdom and skill. You did not see a woman overtake a man's strength. We're not called to do that. We're called to be strong and purposeful, but we're still ladies. And so all of their outfits were skirts. And I just thought that was major. And when a man hit them in the face with his fist, they fell back. They didn't act like I'm designed to beat, or, you know, it wasn't a I'm just like a man thing. It was I'm a woman with power, but I'm still a woman.
So it's like that balance of strength but femininity as well.
Exactly. That we should not, you know, be so forceful that we have to be like we're a man, because we were born women, because we're
because we're women.
Because we're women. Yep, that's it.
Because we're women. Yeah, because we're women. And so yet they won, they conquered, they overcame. And I looked at it as though they were overcoming evil, regardless of whether it was a man's tribe coming at them or a woman's tribe. That was insignificant. They were overcoming evil and the fact that these people were trying to enslave their own people. That's what they were warring against. And so I thought it was just, I just pick up on stuff like that because I like girly stuff. You know,
I hadn't even thought about the fact that they were until you said that. I was like, they were in skirts.
Yes.
Regina, I know you tapped on a little bit, but I wanted to give you opportunity to, say more about that as well.
When they said in the movie, you must prepare for your work. And I think that was kind of like a run through word, like statement when it was made. But if you think about the young woman who wound up being her daughter,
Yeah.
she thought that she was just going to walk through those doors because they had a separation where only the women were allowed and the young
Yes.
girls were allowed to be. So I believe she thought she was going to walk in those doors, be able to watch what was being done and do it. And so she did not realize that there's a work behind that. There's a preparation to being able to accomplish what you see someone else is doing. And so
Exactly.
society tells you that there's overnight success when there is no such thing as overnight success. God says faith without works is dead. So the faith is believing in God, but the work is you preparing so that you can accomplish that what he has already called and purposed you to do. And so what she had to understand was she had to put in work. So when Viola was going to lay her stuff at the altar, like her, I don't know the lady's name, but it was like her right-hand woman,
Right.
her to do after they discussed her dream, she heard noises. When she looked and peeked inside, it was her daughter practicing. She was putting in work. She was preparing because she knew the work that was necessary.
Exactly.
She knew what was coming and she knew she had to practice. So we have to understand that whatever you've been called and purposed to do, there's a preparation season. And in your preparation season, you got to be willing to put in the work.
Absolutely.
And work means consistency. It means discipline. It means sacrifice. But in order to fulfill the work that you've been purposed to do, are you preparing? And so for me, that was huge. I saw so much in that one thing because we think that we're going to, this next generation and our culture says that you don't really have to prepare. You just got to get in there. It's all in who you know. Yeah, but if who you know gets you in the door and you haven't prepared, you can't sustain. There's no sustainability for you. So there's still a preparation that needs to be done. So for all our millennials and college students watching this podcast, listen, prepare now so that the work that God has purposed and called you to do, you're equipped for it.
Exactly. And there was a line in there too when they were going through the final drill. Carolyn, I think you mentioned it when she went back for her friend.
Yeah.
And she kind of had to get through those thorns. And when she got on the other side, they were like,
they were upset.
Yeah. And she was like, you would have left your friend. She said, I didn't want her to fail. She had to get through the test in order to, stay. And she was like, yeah, you helping her can help her to pass the test, but only she
got to be able to stand on
be able to stand on her own. I forget how she said it, but that was really powerful too.
But I wanted to speak about at the end when she asked her to dance. And the first thing that came to my mind is he will turn your mourning into dancing.
I love
that. And so with all that, Natishka had going on and how she gave that person life with her, when she shed the tear, when we talked about that part. I said, and now you dance.
That was beautiful. I think that was really almost symbolic too of a new season.
Yes.
Like the warring was over and now you dance. And it was like even not just the external war, but the internal war as well. When she said, Mother, will you dance with me? I thought that was, woo, talk about crying.
Yes. That was the teary part.
Yes.
Because she was struggling with that. She was really struggling with that. She kept, even in the moment when she said, you are my daughter, the first time I saw it, I was thinking there was going to be this embracing. She's like, I'll be back.
But in the end,
exactly.
But in the end, Carolyn, when she came to her to ask her to dance, though, she didn't just first get up and go dance with her. She embraced and hugged her. And I felt like that was a turning point for them. And if the movie had went longer, of course, we would have saw all of that.
Right.
That was a turning point because they had never embraced before.
Exactly.
As an adult.
No, that was beautiful. Now, of course, with all wonderful works, there has to be critics, right? So have you guys heard any other criticism that's been surrounding this movie? And so just kind of in a nutshell, I guess the idea is that this, the homemade tribe was a real tribe. And apparently they played a huge part in the African slave trade. And then even with the, what was the Ajoji, am I saying that right? The Ajoji army or the Ajoji women. They were like a
Doja.
real, right. So they were like a real tribe of women. I mean, they were real warriors, and they were well known, I guess, throughout the land. And but they were really these real powerful warriors. And so, although the story was taken, from this real Dahomey tribe or kingdom, and then having this idea of these real warrior women. In fact, I read somewhere that the women on a Black Panther, that the warriors that was, for the Black Panther, that they were based off of this tribe. And I'll share another quote that I got a little bit later, but that's kind of part of the criticism, is that, they made this movie about this, this kingdom that plays such a huge part in the African slave trade. Why are we trying to, make them
Romance
look for, right? Why are we trying to make them look like they were, benevolent when they weren't, and all these different things. So, Carolyn, I'll start with you. What would you say, like, to the critics? Like, what would you say to the critics?
I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't address it with them. People speak from where they are.
Yeah.
And like, for me, because I got such a watch me roar, I'm coming out. This I just think that they're entitled to think that, and they're entitled to feel that. One of the parts in the movie where the white guy says to, I don't know their names, but the white guy says to the biracial friend, "You're lucky you're not on the block."
Yeah.
That's real. And so some people have those thoughts and feelings, and they have a right to. I wouldn't high five them.
Right.
I'd be like, I don't care what you got out of it. Let me tell you my story and watch me roar. But I wouldn't.
You wouldn't even address them. Kimberly, what about you? I know you said you stay away from controversial topics.
Yeah.
So
I just think everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And so I don't normally address critics. People say what they say. But what I would say to everyone else is to just go see the movie for yourself and form your own opinion.
Exactly.
I just don't believe in the whole boycott this or boycott that, and then you are doing it based on what someone else says and their opinion. Why not just go see it for yourself, make your own, judgments or whatever about it, I have no tolerance for it at all.
I agree. Stephanie, what about you?
I think my biggest issue about the critics is people are talking who haven't seen the movie.
Exactly.
And the statements that they're making, like, it's about the slave trade. And I'm thinking to myself, if you saw the movie, they do address the slave trade in the middle of the first sentence of the movie. So it's like, how do you do that? Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. As if they're trying to avoid the conversation, or if they're not trying to deal with issues that were real. And like, if you really even watch their commentary, even before I saw it, they talked about it. And they said, what are you gonna do about the Dahomey? How did y'all address the Dahomey issue in the movie? And they said, we didn't hide from it. It is true. It is history. And so, we just have to be mindful. I agree with everyone else. You have a right to your opinion, but also too, at the same time, it's like we kind of shoot our own selves in the foot a lot of times, right? I was looking at Viola Davis, and she was talking. She was like, people don't realize, if this movie doesn't do good, the person behind me's movie won't get made because they're going to say your people won't go see it. Why should we spend money on your movie when y'all won't even see it? You say y'all want to see the Black people. So it's almost like, what storyline is acceptable? There's always going to be something that you're not going to appreciate or like. And does that mean don't make it because of, you see what I'm saying? Because we watch stuff every day on TV. That we don't agree with, that we don't like, that we have an opinion, but we don't boycott the TV. We still got cable.
Exactly.
Regina, like, really?
Yes. Regina, what about you?
I don't entertain the critics, but here's what I know. Even God had critics.
Right.
He still stayed focused. He still stayed determined. He still stayed purposeful on the mission.
Yes.
And so these people who created this movie, wrote this movie, starred and acted in this movie, it was they focused, they had the purpose, they had a mission, and people are blessed by it. Everybody won't get the revelation.
Right.
But who is for, it is
We
for.
will.
And that is
Amen.
it.
Amen. I love that. And it's interesting because I know that Lupita, she was supposed to play in this movie. Apparently it took like 7 years to make this movie. And she was supposed to play, I think, Naui, the daughter.
Yeah.
She was going to play that role. So she, in preparation, went over to Africa and, you know, did her research on the homemade kingdom. And she didn't, you know, I guess the stories that she heard and talking to the people and, you know, really getting the history of it, she didn't feel that in good conscience that she could do the movie. And she had this quote, I think I wrote it down, but I wanted to share it with you guys. So I thought it was a really powerful or really interesting quote in talking about perspective. Let me see, where did I put it? I know I wrote it down somewhere. Yeah. So she said, the role of fantasy is to create the heroes we cannot have in the real world. And she said, but I think it's also really important to be aware of the truth. And so I wonder for her, it's like, because I think they did that. I think they talked about, because there was still heroism in these characters, despite what they were showing, commitment or loyalty to. But I think I feel like you could have had both. You could have had the story that speaks to heroism, especially among women and, you know, these Amazonian women, these powerful women, but then also talk about truth as well. And I think the movie did that. So, you know, like you said, everybody to each his own, and everybody, you know, has their own level of conviction. But I wonder if watching this movie now and seeing how it's done, that I wonder if she would have a different opinion or thought about it. So this
But
is
it's okay though. It just means that it wasn't for her, because that young
Exactly.
lady, she played that role.
She played that role.
Her.
Yeah.
Man.
So it was for her.
Exactly. Exactly. So we got through most of the questions, but I wanted to leave one final question to give you all just an opportunity just to say, just to answer, one last question to just kind of share your thoughts. So if you had an opportunity to see like a Viola Davis or a Gina Price Blythewood, what would you say to them about the importance of this movie specifically to Black women? And Regina, we'll start with you.
Wow. So if I had a chance to see Viola Davis, I would say, girl, when I tell you, I don't even, like, I'm speechless, but can I just go ahead and tell you, you served it for the Black women. You showed us Black women that we can be unstoppable. You showed us Black women that we can be unapologetic. You showed us Black women that it's okay to go through the mud and come out looking amazing. You showed us that it's okay to not apologize about being great in this world. But most importantly, Viola, you showed us that it is okay to be the woman from the inside out. And then while we're doing it, help another sister along on the journey. So we thank you, Viola Davis. As a Black woman, I thank you for showing up and showing out for other Black women. You are Black women. You truly are an unstoppable woman on the move for God.
Yes. I love that. Kimberly, what about you?
I think I would just have 2 words, and that would be more, please.
More, please. I love that.
More, please.
Yeah.
I love that. Carolyn?
I think that I would congratulate her on being who she is, but showing that she had a past of defeat and rape and, and bondage and left for dead. And she emerged victorious. And more of us need to see that, because more of us go through that type thing than little. So it just showed that. And even when to Gina Prince, when a young woman says, I have not had an easy life, they're looking at her, and it just speaks to, let's not judge people on what we perceive of their life, because like I said, I went there to the second time for direction and things like that. So I would just congratulate them on making it known what Black women go through and have to come through and get to be victorious, but victorious is available.
Amen. I love that.
Amen.
I love that.
Yeah.
Stephanie, what about you?
I'm going to read a part of a statement that I wrote on my post about
Okay.
the movie. And so I would say to her, and so all of us are coaches, so
Right.
she coached women how to heal.
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
so on my statement, so I would say, thank you for energizing us to face our baggage. Thank you for helping us to stand in our truth. Thank you for showing us how to be honest with ourselves so that we can heal. Thank you for showing us that we can stand strong in our greatest adversity. I would say thank you for letting us know that we have a place. And thank you for showing us how to walk in our destiny. So she coached us. I mean, she coached us from healing all the way to walking in our destiny. So I would thank her for putting in motion visually so that people can see. Because I mean, the word of God is plain. We overcome not just by the blood of the lamb, but it was a testimony in our eyes. And we saw a healing testimony. And all of those points, everything that all of us have said played out, and we could pull the piece that we needed for our journey. If you needed to learn how to stand in your truth, she showed you that. If you needed to know that you can make it to the end of adversity, she showed you that. You know what I'm saying? All of us, what we needed in that moment, there was a play in that. There was a piece in there that helped to weave together our story of victory, becoming who God has called us to be warriors. And so I would thank her for putting all of those pieces together.
Amen. And thank you, Warrior Women, for joining me. This was such a great conversation. I feel like we could have talked more about it for hours, but I think this is such a great conversation and a great piece for people who have not seen it to kind of get your different takes and different points of the movie that really spoke to you. And I think, Stephanie, I'll echo your words and say, take what you need, take what works for you, and make that work for you. Because I think it is something really and truly for everybody. So thank you guys so much.
Kwanza, can I just ask you one question?
Yes, ma'am.
What would you say to Viola Davis and Gina Prince Bythewood?
Yes.
Bedford.
I would just say well done and way to show courage, not even just in making the movie, or doing the movie, but making the movie, everything that happens on the back end. A lot of guys might know, but it's always been my dream to work in film and television. And so I can appreciate the work that goes behind the scenes to get a movie like this done. And then, the easy part, believe it or not, is the acting. But then you get to the point where, you have to have the criticism and deal with the criticism afterwards. So I would just tell them well done and, way to show their fearlessness and, and way to stay committed to a great story and telling a great story. But thank you guys so much. This has been a wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about Girlfriend Therapy audience. Thank you, Girlfriend Therapy audience, for joining us. And until next week, blessings.
Yes, thank you.